And what is up, everybody? Welcome into my PM edition of Crushing Fantasy Football. I'm coming at you guys live tonight, and we are going to be talking about quarterback rankings. Now, the funny thing about quarterback rankings is they probably get people more triggered than like any topic in fantasy football. And this is because if you don't repeat the exact same order that the quarterbacks finished in last year, everybody tries to call you an idiot. And the funny thing about this is they never finish in the order that they did last year. That literally never happens at any position, especially at the quarterback position, except for maybe guys named Josh Allen because he's been the quarterback 1 or 2 the past 5 seasons in a row. Anyway, I'm going to get into my quarterback rankings, and I'm going to start here with the very first player on my list, and that is Josh Allen. Now, Josh Allen is a guy who, like I said, he's come out like the past 5 seasons and been pretty much the best quarterback in fantasy. He's either finished as the quarterback 1 or the quarterback 2, every season for like 5 seasons in a row. This dude is an absolute fantasy monster. And a big time reason for this is because he just has an MVP-like skill set. He's got one of the strongest arms in the league. He's got elite rushing upside. They utilize him in every way imaginable. They cut him loose. They let him sling the ball down the field. They let him rush like crazy within the 5-yard line and get his goal line touchdowns. This dude had one of the most amazing seasons last year. He's done it 5 years in a row. There is no way in hell you could have anyone besides Josh Allen as your quarterback 1 because of how amazingly consistent he's been at the quarterback position for producing fantasy numbers. I don't see how you can rank anyone ahead of him. Josh Allen is my number 1 easily. So my number 2 player, my number 2 quarterback is going to be Jalen Hurts. Now, a lot of people have Lamar Jackson ranked ahead of Jalen Hurts just because of where Lamar Jackson finished last year. This is usually how rankings work. It's a very frustrating thing for me because I'm somebody in the fantasy community that posts content, and I'm trying to give people the most accurate content possible. And seeing people just copy and paste rankings from last season and putting everyone in the same order as where they finished just makes absolutely no sense to me. You got to look at this as a fluid situation. How have these players been over the past 5 seasons? If you have the luxury of taking the larger sample size, which you do with players that have been in the league for a few years, take the larger sample size and go with that. We know that Jalen Hurts is going to get 10-plus rushing touchdowns. He does it every single season. Teams have to account for Saquon now. Yes, Saquon might siphon some of Jalen Hurts' rushing upside, within the 5-yard line. But we know that they're going to do the tush push anytime they're close to the end zone. And this dude is going to get 10-plus rushing touchdowns. He's also shown the ability to be an elite passer when they decide to cut him loose and actually let him be an elite passer. This dude can sling the ball all over the field. He's going to pass for something like 3,000, 3,500 yards like he does every year, maybe a ceiling of 4,000. He's probably not going to pass for 5,000 like, Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow might do, but they're not going to get a million rushing touchdowns either. Rushing upside is everything in fantasy nowadays. And, quarterbacks that go extremely high in fantasy drafts, they all pretty much have to have that in common. If you don't have that elite rushing upside, I'm not going to rank you that high. I don't expect Jalen Hurts to lead the league in passing yards, but if he passed for 3,500 yards, that would be all he needs to finish as the quarterback 1. This dude has elite fantasy upside. And after Josh Allen, I don't see how you can take anyone ahead of Jalen Hurts, given the fact that this dude's going to score 10 touchdowns with his legs guaranteed, and he plays on an offense with 3 elite passing threats, really 4 if you count Saquon. I mean, we have, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, the guys, right? Dallas Goedert, Saquon, they're all elite pass catchers, okay? So what we're going to have is a monster Jalen Hurts season. I don't see any reason why he should regress negatively at all. Patrick Mahomes is going to be my number 3. Now, this is where I'm going to break consensus a little bit, and that's because Patrick Mahomes is – what up, Jay Muddy? Good to see you in here, bro. Patrick Mahomes is a guy who is coming off 2 technically bust seasons for his standards, but he was still really good. It's just that we expect so much from Patrick Mahomes. But if you look at quarterbacks who have led the league in passing yardage over the past 5 seasons, guess who's passed for the most yards? Patrick freaking Mahomes. This dude goes into every season – I don't care what you saw last year as the favorite to lead the league in passing yards. If you look at the implied Vegas totals for passing yardage totals, he is projected to be second in the league in passing yards behind Joe Burrow. And this makes perfect sense to me because he's got all kinds of weapons now. They're going to cut him loose. This isn't going to be the clock control, ball control, conservative offense that we saw last year. This is going to be an offense that is a gunslinging offense. They have the best quarterback in the league throwing the ball to very explosive wide receivers, a second-year Xavier Worthy, a healthy Rashee Rice. what we have left of Travis Kelce and Hollywood Brown, who we know could be an elite field stretcher. Plus they drafted and added some depth at the wide receiver position. So I don't see any reason why this offense shouldn't bounce back, and we shouldn't see something more like the 2022 Patrick Mahomes, where he had over 5,000 passing yards and was the quarterback one in all of fantasy. We're going to take the larger sample size, not just be recency bias based on what we saw last year, and we're going to apply Patrick Mahomes as one of our top quarterbacks this season. This dude's coming for everybody. He's going to explode. The offense is going to be different this year. They're going to play at a faster pace, and Patrick Mahomes is going to go freaking nuclear. And don't give me shit about ranking him ahead of Lamar Jackson, because he has better weapons than Lamar Jackson. So I don't even want to hear it. Number 5 on my list is going to be Jayden Daniels. Now, I hate taking a one-year sample size and just assuming that the same thing is going to happen. I like to, obviously have a larger sample size to look at, but what are we going to do here? We have a rookie who exploded in year 1. We have a one-year sample size to work with. That's all we got. But what I do know is this. The difference between him and C.J. Stroud, who also exploded his rookie year, is that Jayden Daniels has elite rushing upside, right? I mean, this dude could get in the end zone 8 to 10 times with his legs. He could bust out 50-yard runs like it's nothing. The dude has tremendous athleticism. He can throw on the run. He could lead a fast-paced offense, and he's got a lot of receiving weapons. He's got one of the best receivers in the game in Terry McLaurin to throw the ball to. Jay Money, I love Patrick this year for the value. Round 6, absolutely. Grab another quarterback later. There's tons. Your Rice and Patrick stack. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and here's another thing that I didn't even really mention about Pat Mahomes is the value is absolutely insane. I mean, you're getting this guy in round 6 for crying out loud. I mean, like if you're a guy that likes to draft, mid-round quarterbacks, he's the perfect target, right? You could load up on your other positions, with your first 5 picks, running backs and wide receivers. And then you could go Patrick Mahomes. You could stack him with Rashee Rice. You can backstack him with Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce. You're probably going to have to take Worthy higher than him, but you could definitely backstack him with Travis Kelce and Hollywood Brown, right? So the stacking ability is just absolutely unbelievable with Patrick Mahomes. And what I was talking about with Jayden Daniels is basically this dude has so much more rushing upside than C.J. Stroud that I think he's more likely to repeat and not have that sophomore slump that C.J. Stroud did. He's also just got so many weapons. I mean, Terry McLaurin, we've always known that dude's an elite wide receiver. I've been talking about him ever since I've had my channel. I love Terry McLaurin. I love him coming into the league. I love him as a player. I think he's got world-class skill set, but we just needed to have him have a quarterback, right? And now we see him with the quarterback, and look what happens. So we've got Terry McLaurin in the offense. I think that Ben Sinnott could break out in year 3. We've got another good pass-catching tight end in Zach Ertz. I think they're going to add some depth to the backfield. I think this is going to be a very good and very efficient offense. Look for Jayden Daniels to repeat another monster season. So I have him as my quarterback 4. My number 5 quarterback this year is going to be Lamar Jackson. Now, don't worry. I wasn't going to let Lamar Jackson slip too low. In fact, don't think that I'm biased against Lamar Jackson because he's my favorite quarterback in the NFL. He's literally my favorite quarterback in the NFL. There is nobody who's more fun to watch than Lamar Jackson. He might be the best athlete in the league. He's one of the best athletes in sports. He looks like he just plays on such an effortless level and is somehow just extremely efficient in both phases of the game. And he's a great leader. I love Lamar Jackson. I have him a little bit lower this year because the rushing upside isn't quite what it used to be. Does he still have the same rushing talent? Yes. But if you look at a lot of his rushing, it's more on like broken plays rather than design runs. Yes, they still, allocate some design runs for him. But, a lot of his big runs are on, broken plays and everything like that. And he's going to do that for you. He's Lamar Jackson. He's going to be able to wing it and, produce big plays for you with his legs, but he doesn't have the same rushing upside as somebody like Jalen Hurts, right? Or Josh Allen, because they're guys who are going to be bruisers within the 5-yard line. They're not going to do that with Lamar Jackson because they're just going to hand the ball to Derrick Henry. So Derrick Henry is going to siphon so many of his opportunities within the 5-yard line, whereas Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts are going to rush the ball when they're within the 5-yard line. So Lamar Jackson, while he has elite rushing upside, I don't think he has quite the rushing upside, or I know he doesn't have quite the rushing upside, at least from a touchdown perspective, as Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. He was an MVP last year mainly because his passing was unbelievable. But if you look at the weapons that he has in his offense, Zay Flowers is his best receiver. Do I think Lamar Jackson's going to smash this year? I absolutely do. I just don't like drafting him as the quarterback 2 off the board just because we're copying and pasting last season's. Ravens change their offense a little every year. Yeah, they really do. It's hard to know what to expect, but what I do know is he's not going to have as many design runs within the 5-yard line as Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts. He doesn't have as many weapons as Patrick Mahomes. But I still expect him to smash. That's why I have him as a top 5 quarterback. Next player on my list is going to be Joe Burrow. Now, if you look at the Vegas implied totals, they're pretty much saying that Joe Burrow is going to lead the league in passing yards. Now, I think this is very much because of his. I mean, obviously, we've got a great track record with Joe Burrow, not with Ja'Marr Chase, but with Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase, right? This offense is absolutely unbelievable. And given his weapons, given the fact that, he has the most expensive wide receiver room in the entire league, given the fact that, he's got a decent pass catching tight end, a running back in Chase Brown that can catch passes out of the backfield, I don't see any reason why his passing yardage totals shouldn't be absolutely unbelievable this year. But he's not going to give you the same rushing upside as guys that I have ahead of him. I always place the guys with the elite rushing upside up top because they're going to finish ahead of everyone else. That's just kind of a law in fantasy nowadays. And Joe Burrow, while I think he could lead the league in passing yards, would have to lead the league in passing yards to have a chance at being the quarterback one. And even then, it is a massive reach because Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen are going to score 12 freaking rushing touchdowns. How is he going to compete with that? So I can't have him up there with those guys. But he is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, especially from an arm talent perspective. And he's got a ton of weapons. So I have him finishing sixth overall. Good offense with bad defense is great for fantasy. I love him. Well, a 6-point league's a little different because, rather than getting 4 points per passing touchdown, you're getting 6 points per passing touchdown. That changes the quarterback landscape a little bit, and it kind of gives quarterbacks that don't have as much rushing upside a little bit more of an advantage, right? Because, their passing touchdowns count for 6. Those 2 extra points are huge. If you have 4 passing touchdowns in a game, that's 8 extra points. I mean, that's an absolutely massive difference. I'm mainly talking about like the standard scoring system where it's 4 points for quarterback passing touchdowns and 6 points for rushing touchdowns. Next player on my list is going to be Dak Prescott. Now, here's where I break consensus massively. And I don't understand why in God's name this dude's going so low in drafts. This dude was the quarterback 3 in fantasy just 2 seasons ago. And that's when he had, CeeDee Lamb as a weapon. It was pretty much it. He had Jake Ferguson back then, but Ferguson really wasn't breaking out of his shell yet. We now have a more veteran Jake Ferguson. We have CeeDee Lamb, and we freaking add George Pickens to the offense. So I'm just like, how in the world is Dak Prescott being disrespected like this? This dude is projected 3rd, and as far as the Vegas point totals to finish atop the league in passing yards. I mean, Vegas has Joe Burrow finishing 1st, Pat Mahomes finishing 2nd, and Dak Prescott finishing 3rd. This dude has the upside to pass for 5,000 yards. He has the upside to pass for 5,000 yards, and he's going as the quarterback 17. It makes absolutely no sense. He still has some rushing upside, right? Dak Prescott is not quite the rushing quarterback that he used to be, but are they going to have some design runs for him within the 5-yard line? Yes. And this offense is going to be extremely efficient. If he had 7 rushing touchdowns, that's probably his ceiling, but I wouldn't be surprised if he had like 5 to 7 rushing touchdowns to go along with potentially leading the league in passing yards. And he's going as the quarterback 17. This guy is the biggest steal in all of fantasy at any position. If you're not drafting as much Dak Prescott as possible, I don't know what you're doing. Next player on my list is going to be Kyler Murray. Now, Kyler Murray, obviously, slightly disappointing season last year, but if you look at him pretty much every year he's been in the league, until last year, he was at least the quarterback 6, if not better, every single year that he had been in the league. So this is a guy who's got a very consistent track record. He's one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL. He's got some of the best rushing upside in the NFL. We've got a year 2 Marvin Harrison Jr. that's looking like he's primed to explode. We've got one of the Jamie, what's up, man? How you doing? We've got one of the best, if not, no, screw it. He's the best. He's the best pass catching tight end in the game right now. And it's Trey McBride. I don't care what Brock Bowers did last year. Trey McBride's the best pass catching tight end in the game. If he could get in the end zone a little bit more this year, look for this offense to just absolutely explode. So I think that Kyler Murray is going to have a pretty massive season. Just got done on my live dynasty episode. Nice. Glad to have you in, my man. Next quarterback on my list is going to be Jared Goff. Now, if you look at Jared Goff, he's kind of like, he's kind of like Baker Mayfield in a way. Like, he plays in an offense that's just going to support elite production just because of how stacked the offense is. And I'm not saying that Baker's a bad quarterback. I think he's pretty good. I'm not saying that Jared Goff's a bad quarterback, right? These guys are decent NFL quarterbacks, but they're made to look good by their system, right? You know, when you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs to pass the ball to, you're going to be a good fantasy quarterback just by default. There's no way. You could place almost any quarterback in this system and he's going to be good. Now, there's exceptions. I don't think Zach Wilson would be good in this system, right? But, you know, almost any NFL quarterback would be good in the Lions system. So by default, Jared Goff is going to have a really good fantasy season yet again, just like he did last year. He's probably got the most loaded offense in the NFL. They're projected to be third in overall points. I believe the Bills are projected to score the most points in the NFL, followed by the Ravens, followed by the Lions. So the Lions are expected to score the third most points in the NFL. How could you not have their quarterbacks in your top 12 overall quarterback rankings? It just really wouldn't make any sense. So based on the weapons alone, I'm going to place Jared Goff in my top 10. Next player on my list is going to be Matthew Stafford. Now, I'm also breaking consensus massively on here, much like I am on Dak Prescott. I can't talk right now. But what are we doing? Matthew Stafford has Puka Nacua and Davante Adams. And let's not forget that this dude still has some of the best arm talent at the quarterback position in the entire league. Now, some people are going to disagree with that because of recency bias, because of the fact that, you know, quarterbacks dominate so much more with rushing upside now, and people that play fantasy base everything on fantasy statistics. But let's talk about real life football for a second. This dude is still one of the best passers in the NFL. As far as pure arm talent, he can throw at all different kinds of arm angles. He's great at throwing the deep ball. He can deploy passes to any level of the field accurately and on time. This is a great NFL quarterback. He's got Puka Nacua and Davante freaking Adams. Let that sink in. How is this dude not going to be a top 10 overall quarterback? I actually felt like I probably should have put him higher, right? We know that the Rams force feed their top receivers. We've seen it in the years with Cooper Kupp. We've seen it, in the years with Puka Nacua. They force feed their top receivers. That's it. They force feed their top receivers. Puka Nacua and Davante Adams are going to get 10 targets a game. They're going to be force fed. We add who I think could be an elite pass catching tight end in this league, and Terrence Ferguson. You know, Kyren Williams has shown to be a decent pass catching back when they need to throw the ball to him. He's got a ton of weapons, and he's got some of the best arm talent in the NFL. Now, does he give you any rushing upside? No, the dude's a fossil, right? He's not going to give you crazy rushing upside. You know, he's not quite as good as he used to be at throwing on the run, but this dude is still one of the best passers in the game. And given these weapons, I don't understand how he's being ranked so low, other than the fact that he just finished lower last season. Like I said, these people that make rankings, a lot of them, they just copy and paste the rankings from last season. That's the only explanation as to why Matthew Stafford wouldn't be higher. But if you look at last year, Puka Nacua was hurt for a significant amount of time. Cooper Kupp was hurt for a significant amount of time. There was a large chunk of the season where he was only working with one of the two wide receivers or none of them, right? So imagine how inflated the numbers would have been if those guys just stayed healthy. Now, as much as I love Cooper Kupp, you add an upgrade in Davante Adams. There is going to be no answer for this offense, and Matthew Stafford's going to explode. All right. Next quarterback on my list is going to be Justin Fields. Sue me. I don't know. Whatever. This dude's got rushing upside, right? Some of the best rushing upside in the NFL. Look, we've seen what Justin Fields can do with an elite wide receiver one. The year with DJ Moore, he did pretty darn good. Obviously, we need to see him take that next step to be a top 10 overall quarterback. I had to have him, just outside of my top 10 because, well, he hasn't really shown to be the fantasy quarterback that we want him to be. You think I have Fields too low? I have him for 8 in redraft. But here's the thing. There's just quarterbacks in the league that have better weapons. I don't know. Obviously, Garrett Wilson has the potential to be an elite wide receiver one. We saw what Justin Fields did with DJ Moore. We know the rushing upside, but he is in a completely new system. So I want us to temper expectations a little bit because from a real life quarterback perspective, he's still shown to be pretty shaky in a lot of aspects of his game. So going over to a new system, I think that we want to temper expectations a little bit, but the rushing upside is tremendously high. So I have him at 11 overall. Number 12 on my list is going to be Caleb Williams. Now, if you guys haven't noticed, if you look at these rankings in comparison to like last time I made quarterback rankings, they vary quite a bit. That's why I titled the video titled the video Updated Quarterback Rankings because these are vastly different from the last time I released a quarterback rankings video. And it's because I did some extended research and I really had to see what the difference was between my rankings and where I really think these guys are going to go because I was copying and pasting too much. I did a little bit more research and I've got some guys exceeding expectations this year. If you haven't noticed, I have Caleb Williams on here. Caleb Williams is loaded with weapons, right? We draft Luther Burden. We've got a good pass catching tight end. We've got DJ Moore. We've got Rome Odunze. This guy is so incredibly loaded with weapons. Giving him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, obviously did not have a good rookie season. But like, if you look at Caleb Williams going into the league, everyone was saying he was like the best thing they've ever seen. He's in the best offensive situation. This guy's going to be a top 3 overall quarterback. What happened? He flopped because, to be honest, he's just not in the best system. The Bears, they're just not a good organization. So I feel like the system kind of failed him, but we know that he has the talent. He was drafted first overall for a reason. Is he a better quarterback than Jayden Daniels? No, but last year everyone would have claimed it, right? There's a reason they took him over Jayden Daniels. This dude does have some arm talent. He does have some physical abilities, and people are sleeping on him now. And I think you can get Caleb Williams at a really awesome value based on, just look at his passing weapons, right? So, if you look at him in comparison to last year, the additional Luther Burden is going to help. And just going into his sophomore season, having a little bit more time to learn the system. And he is going to have a breakout season in year 2, I think. So, yeah, I saw what you said about Baker. I don't know. I'm just not sold on Baker being a top 12 overall quarterback. I know he was a quarterback 4 last year. But these things tend to even themselves out when it comes to non-rushing upside quarterbacks. And there was, I don't remember, what was it you, Jay Money, that said that Baker had 10 rushing touchdowns last season? That wasn't right. I fact-checked that. I had Daniels over Caleb last year. People thought it was crazy. Also had Neighbors over Caleb in rookie drafts. Yeah, that's good. And that's the thing is, like, people are so soon to forget. Yeah, I checked Player Profiler, and 3 rushing touchdowns last season. We're obviously looking at a different source. Doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. I had Daniels over Caleb last year. People thought it was crazy. Also Neighbors over Caleb in rookie drafts. Yeah, and last year, if you were to draft, or if you were to tell people that Daniels should go over Caleb Williams, people would say you're crazy, right? I mean, he was going way over Daniels in fantasy drafts. So I don't know. Yeah, it's just going to change every year. So I'm only going as deep as my top 12 today, but I'll answer questions about like pretty much any like fantasy football question you'll have about like any position. Like I'm on here to answer them. So yeah, I'm only going as deep as my top 12 quarterbacks today. But if you wanted to know anything about other quarterbacks or just give me your input on quarterbacks, that's totally fine. We'll just yeah, that's totally fine. Yeah, I thought I was. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was like, man, 10 rushing touchdowns. That just seems extremely high for Baker Mayfield. That would be pretty crazy. Yeah. That's a good question. I kind of felt criminal leaving Bo Nix off this list, but there were just a few quarterbacks. Like, for example, let me go up right here. And if I were to put Bo Nix on this list, I can't put him ahead of Dak Prescott. I just absolutely can't do it. Dak's probably going to lead the freaking league in passing yards. Kyler Murray, I can't put him ahead of Kyler Murray, given Kyler Murray's rushing upside. Not that Bo Nix doesn't have rushing upside, but he doesn't have the same rushing upside as Kyler Murray. I think the Cardinals' offense is going to bounce back massively. Jared Goff is in a better offense. There's probably going to be a top 3 overall projected offense. I think that Matthew Stafford is going to be the biggest bounce back quarterback in all of fantasy, given his weapons. Justin Fields has crazy rushing upside. And we know what Justin Fields could do with an elite wide receiver 1. We saw it in the years with DJ Moore. Caleb Williams is absolutely loaded with weapons, and he's going into his sophomore year, having more time to learn the playbook and everything like that. I just think that we're going to see some regression, some negative regression from Bo Nix. Nothing crazy. Like, if he finishes in the top 10 overall, wouldn't be at all surprised. I'm not saying that, like, I don't think he can. It's just that the quarterback position there's a lot of good fantasy quarterbacks going into this season. So, yeah. I'm a Purdy quarterback, but he puts up top 10 numbers. Well, he certainly can. He's definitely in what's projected to be one of the best offenses in the NFL in the 49ers, but they do lose Deebo Samuel. Ricky Pearsall, or sorry, why am I drawing? Jawan Jennings is probably projected to be the number one receiver in the offense. We've got George Kittle, who still has some juice left in the tank. Christian McCaffrey, a good pass catching back, could rack up the yardage for him. But this 49ers team was a mess last year, and now they lose Deebo Samuel. Brock Purdy doesn't really give you that elite rushing upside. I don't know, man. I just couldn't find a spot for Purdy in my top 12 overall. I know I'm leaving some guys off this list that are coming off like really good fantasy finishes, especially Baker Mayfield. And what's funny is when Baker Mayfield went to Tampa Bay, I was telling everyone to draft him at his value, but for some reason, Baker was top 5 the last 2 years. No, he wasn't. He was quarterback 17 in fantasy points per game 2 years ago. Yeah, but he was quarterback. He was quarterback for last year in fantasy points per game. I like looking at fantasy points per game because it gives you a more accurate assessment of the player. Because like players miss games, other quarterbacks miss games, and then they fall behind in yardage and everything like that. Like for example, back in the 2022 season, Patrick Mahomes was first in quarterback fantasy points per game, but he was third overall in fantasy quarterback finish because, well, he missed 2 games late in the season. And then, no, it was different. It was I think it was Jalen Hurts that was the quarterback number 1 overall in fantasy points per game, but he had less overall yardage than Patrick Mahomes because Mahomes and Josh Allen both played later into the season. Jalen Hurts missed 2 games, and then they ended up finishing ahead of Jalen Hurts. The point of the matter is fantasy points per game is just a more accurate depiction of a player's overall finish than overall fantasy points. He was a waiver wire winner last year. Some leagues Baker did. I think I know what you're saying, Jay Money. Baker Mayfield was a waiver wire league winner. Yeah, so like if he finished as a top 5 quarterback 2 seasons ago, he would have been going as a top 6 or 7 quarterback overall in fantasy drafts last year and wouldn't have been a waiver wire pickup because I remember early in the season, everyone was starting Anthony Richardson over Baker Mayfield this past year, and they plugged in Baker Mayfield, people started plugging in Baker Mayfield a little bit later, 4 or 5 weeks into the season when he was looking like an MVP, and then he exploded all year. So I'm not like discounting Baker Mayfield and what he could do. This dude is an elite passing quarterback. Obviously, he's in one of the most loaded offenses in the NFL, and he could easily make me eat my words and could totally make me look like a fool, but I just couldn't find room for him in my top 12. I think he's going to regress a little bit. The rushing upside just isn't good enough for me. And I don't know. We have an aging Mike Evans. I'm not saying that Mike Evans isn't going to be good. The dude seems to be an ageless wonder, but he's got to fall off at some point, right? Still a loaded wide receiver room, though, with them adding Egbuka. So could the passing numbers be absolutely crazy? Could he make me look like a total fool? There's absolutely a possibility. All right, y'all, answering any and all fantasy football questions. Ask as many questions as you want about any position. We can talk quarterbacks. We can talk any position you want. I'm here for it. So, yeah. Devontae Adams and Mike Evans. Who do you lean between Devontae Adams and Mike Evans? That's an interesting debate because both, have a solid case to be taken over the other. I'll tell you, me personally, it's very close. It's very, very close. I mean, like not drafting Mike Evans just seems criminal, given his track record of 1,000-yard seasons. He's never had a season in the NFL without having 1,000 receiving yards. He had a little bit of a down season last year, but the dude absolutely, he's Mike freaking Evans, right? The dude has tremendous fantasy upside. But you say Adams all day, Stafford is going to pepper both sides of the field. Yeah. Adams less target competition, but it's close. But here's the thing about this. The Rams, I feel like the fantasy football show must have just ended because everybody just hopped in my live stream. That's funny. So, like, if you look at Devontae Adams, you look at his career track record, right? And this is one of the best wide receivers we've seen in the NFL in the past 5 seasons, if not the. He's still obviously got juice in the tank. We saw him late in the season last year just absolutely dominate. And now he goes to a team that hyper targets their top wide receivers more so than any other team in the NFL. I mean, who hyper targets their receivers more than the Rams? We saw it in the years with Cooper Kupp. We've seen it with Puka Nakua's target share when he's on the field, right? Davante Adams is going to come out and get 10 targets a game, right? And there's going to be weeks where he outperforms Puka Nacua. And let's not forget that Davante Adams is one of the most elite red zone threats in the entire NFL. And Puka Nacua, as good as he's been in his career, hasn't really shown to be an elite red zone wide receiver. That's all Davante Adams. So this dude, Davante Adams, his touchdown upside is through the roof. So I think I agree with you, J Money. I think I'm going to be taking Davante Adams over Mike Evans as well. But I hate passing on Mike Evans in drafts, given the weekly ceiling, especially for best ball purposes, because we know that Mike Evans can go off for 30 points in any given week in best ball. But so can Davante Adams. I think I totally agree with you there, J Money. I think I'm going to be taking Davante Adams over Mike Evans as well. I think that's a good take. There'll be no double team or stack boxes. Kyron will have a positive regression year. Yeah, I think you're right on that, especially from a yards per carry efficiency standpoint. I mean, like, what did he average? Like 4.2 yards a carry last year. I think that there's no way in hell that doesn't go up this season. And he's going to get so many red zone scoring opportunities. I mean, Kyron Williams is a guy who, like, he heads the backfield. Blake Corum didn't really have any role last year. And this is going to be one of the higher scoring offenses. At least the top, worst case scenario, probably a top 10, top 12 scoring offense in the NFL, the Rams. So I like Kyron's touchdown upside for sure. I need to check the Vegas implied totals on the Rams projected finish for their offense. Another great question. Who will fall first of Evans or Adams? Yeah, they're both obviously getting very old. God, I don't know, man. It's so hard to predict. Gallon B, hey, good to see you again. Hey, what's up? How you doing, my friend? How are we feeling about Bo Nix? I picked him as my quarterback 1 in a money dynasty draft. Bo Nix is one of those guys that's going to make me look like an absolute fool if he totally goes off. I want to be very clear. I'm not telling anyone to fade Bo Nix. I just think that we have a very crowded room of really, really good fantasy quarterbacks this season that are going to put up a lot of points, and they're going at great values. So I do like Bo Nix. In fact, I have him right outside of my top 12. But if you look at a certain stretch that he was on last season, he should be ranked way higher than that. Obviously, he's got Cortland Sutton. They pick up Evan Ingram. They're adding a lot of depth to the backfield. They're meeting with J.K. Dobbins. If they add J.K. Dobbins to this backfield along with R.J. Harvey, the offense is just going to be so damn good. I already think it's going to be good. But Bo Nix doesn't give you the same rushing upside as a lot of the quarterbacks that I have ahead of him. Not that he doesn't have rushing upside, just not obviously like guys like Jalen Hurts or anything like that. So I can't put him like near the top. The highest I would have him is like 8th. And if I go up to, I did this a little bit earlier. If I go up to my quarterback rankings, the highest I would have Bo Nix, if I were to put him in my top 12, would be behind Dak Prescott. No way in hell I'm putting him ahead of Dak Prescott. Kyler Murray just has way too much rushing upside for me to put him ahead of Kyler Murray. Plus, I think the Cardinals are going to have a massive bounce back season. If you look at Jared Goff, he's just got such an unbelievable amount of passing weapons, more passing weapons than Bo Nix. Matthew Stafford has more passing weapons than Bo Nix. Justin Fields obviously has elite rushing upside, very good with, at least one wide receiver in his offense to hyper focus. This year, that's Garrett Wilson. And Caleb Williams, I think we're going to see a massive sophomore breakout. So I just didn't find any room for him. But if you have Bo Nix as your quarterback 1, it means that you have a very good quarterback, a quarterback that could finish in the top 7. He definitely has that upside, and you're loaded at other positions. So I have a fair amount of best ball teams where I have Bo Nix as my quarterback 1, and there's some of my highest projected teams. Not that projections really matter, but I feel better about a lot of my Bo Nix teams than I do about a lot of my other teams. So you're in a totally fine spot with Bo Nix as your quarterback 1, my friend. Peyton loves click control. They don't run as many plays. Yeah, well, he's kind of old school in that way. Yeah. But, we've got an offense that's got at least 2 very good pass catchers and a pass catcher in Marvin Mims who's good at stretching the field. Works for me. I went heavy on wide receiver investments, got Puka and Neighbors and sacrifice score. I think that's a good strategy this year. There's so many good quarterbacks going later. The most important position to load up on early is wide receivers, right? You could look at rounds 7 through 10. There's running back values all through there. You can look at rounds 7 through 10. There's quarterback values, tight end values. Every other position, there's values in the later rounds, right? But wide receivers go early. So I think the play this year is to load up on wide receivers early. And I'm not saying that you can't draft a guy like Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson in the early rounds, but like, you in a lot of our home leagues, these guys get reached on like crazy. I mean, there's people that start drafting Josh Allen in round 2. I mean, what are you going to do? Take a quarterback in round 2? I don't believe that they're worth that price tag, no matter how good they are. And this is an era where quarterbacks are more important than they've ever been in fantasy. I'm still not advising to draft quarterbacks in round 2. I think that you should load up on wide receivers early, wait for the quarterback values. And if Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson slips around 4, great. If not, grab somebody like Bo Nix. He's a perfect quarterback 1 if you're stacking your other positions early. And you can draft Courtland Sutton in front of him, get a nice little quarterback wide receiver stack, maybe back stack him with Evan Ingram as well. Not that stacking matters that much outside of non-best ball, but it still will at least give you a slight advantage. Appreciate you guys coming in. Load up the chat. Let's ask as many fantasy football questions as possible. And let's keep this rolling. Ask questions about any position, though. It doesn't have to be quarterbacks, although quarterbacks is the topic of today's video. You can scroll to the top and see my top 12 rankings for quarterback positions, but I'm willing to talk about pretty much any position today. Also, let me – all right. Yeah. Ask away. Ask as many fantasy football questions as you want about any position. And if you guys haven't already, join the Patreon League. The link to my Patreon is literally all over my channel. We have 4 players in the league. It's going to be a 10-man league. It's going to be $100 for the buy-in. It's going to be $800 for first and $200 for second. We're drafting on August 3rd. So, there's plenty of time until the draft, but the league is going to fill up a lot quicker than that. Considering how early in the offseason I'm advertising the league, I think the league is going to fill up like probably within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So if you want to get in the Patreon league, click the link in my Patreon. You do have to join the paid tier. Some people join for free, like I have to sell something on my channel, right? So if you want to join the Patreon, it's only $5 and you can get in the league for a chance to win $800. I took a gamble on JJ McCarthy as my quarterback 2. How are we feeling about it? I think he's fine as a quarterback 2. I mean, considering the fact that, like, if you're in a 16-round draft, where did you get him? Like round 13, 14? I mean, JJ McCarthy's going extremely low in fantasy drafts. And at the end of the day, he has Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson to throw the ball to. I mean, what are we doing? Like, this dude has a crazy amount of weapons, but people don't trust the player. They thought that in college he was sort of a game manager. They thought that, coming into the league, he gets hurt in his first season. How's he going to bounce back from injury? There's a ton of questions with JJ McCarthy, but the upside is very high. So I like to gamble on JJ McCarthy as your quarterback too, because at the end of the day, like, that's what the later rounds are for. And JJ McCarthy is at the quarterback position definitely one of the higher upside late round flyers that you can take. I think that Tua is the highest late round flyer upside that you can take, but a lot of people don't trust the Dolphins offense. So maybe JJ McCarthy is the guy to go with. 12-man league, 33 rounds. Oh my God, 33 rounds? That's an interesting league. That's a lot of rounds. Man, y'all are going deep. 12-man league, 33 rounds, 4 taxis. It's a deep league, bro. Definitely a deep league. I like it. Good to see you guys in here. We're asking away about fantasy football quarterback questions. I'm also trying to fill the Patreon league as soon as possible. So if you haven't joined the Patreon league already, my Patreon link is all over my YouTube channel. Go ahead and click that. You're going to get my 2025 rankings. I have my top 64 out right now. So if you want to get my rankings, they're in my Patreon. And more importantly, you can join the Patreon league for a chance to win some money. Patrick is saying that Rice looks awesome. Is he worth a 5th-round pick to you? Before even finishing the rest of this, I haven't even saw the rest of what you just said. Rice is worth a 3rd-round pick to me. And your thoughts on Pacheco later rounds, hoping he takes back his role by midseason. Rashee Rice is one of the best values in the draft, is what I think. If you look at him last year, the dude was averaging like close to 10 targets a game in the first 3 games that he played. The offense was running completely through Rashee Rice. And because of what people just saw in the Super Bowl, everyone's thinking Xavier Worthy is going to be the number one wide receiver in this offense. That is not going to happen. Rashee Rice is going to be the best receiver in this offense. He dominates on those slant routes, catches over the middle of the field. He can catch passes at all levels of the field. He showed the ability to catch the deep ball. This dude is freaking awesome. He's a good NFL wide receiver. He's going to be in a very high-scoring offense, and they're going to target him in the red zone. So I love Rashee Rice. Yes, he's worth a 5th-round pick. I would actually draft him well before that. And my thoughts on Pacheco later this season, I think that Pacheco is another great value. If you haven't noticed a trend here, I think almost every Chiefs player is a great value. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, Pacheco, hell, even Travis Kelce going in like round 10 is an okay value, right? The Chiefs had such a down year last year offensively that you're basically getting their players for free based on where they should be going. Isaiah Pacheco is free, in my opinion, considering where he's going in the draft and the fact that he's going to be the running back 1 in the offense. There's no doubt about that. Kareem Hunt doesn't have any juice left. Kareem Hunt does not have any juice left. They used him so much last season because when Isaiah Pacheco came back, he wasn't 100%. It was obvious in his play. His yards per carry efficiency went way down. This is a guy who's going to average 4.7, 4.8 yards a carry, something in that neighborhood. And this year it could be higher because they're going to be stretching the field. They're going to be opening up the offense. This is going to open up bigger holes for Isaiah Pacheco to run through. And it's going to open up some underneath routes for Isaiah Pacheco because he's shown prominence as a pass catching back as he's gone on in the NFL. This is a dude who's going to freaking go off. This challenge is fun. Yeah. Back to 15 to 18 was thinking the same thing. They're all a steal this year. They're all a steal this year, bro. The entire Chiefs offense is an absolute steal this year. The entire offense is a steal. Even Hollywood Brown in the later rounds is a steal. There's not one player that's fantasy relevant on the Chiefs that isn't a steal this season. And it's because they were playing ball control last year, so the offense numbers were massively deflated. Now they're going to bounce back in a significant way because we've seen how explosive this offense is before. Pat Mahomes, in his time in the NFL, has had 2 seasons of having over 5,000 passing yards. How many quarterbacks can you say in the league have done that, right? Over the past 5 seasons, Patrick Mahomes leads the NFL in passing yardage. That's after having 2 down seasons in a row. 2 down seasons in a row. He still leads the NFL in passing yards. So if we take the larger sample, we know that this dude's going to blow up, right? Appreciate you guys coming in. We're talking fantasy football. We're talking quarterbacks. And we're really talking any fantasy football position. Ask away about any position. It doesn't really matter to me. As far as the Patreon league is concerned, let me find my link to that because I want to try to fill up this league as fast as possible. Man, my computer's being slow right now. Patreon. I'm going to copy that and paste it here. Basically, if you want to get in a league with us, good God, that link is just slightly too big to fit on here because it's more than 100 characters. Yo, Kels22, what's up, my man? Yo, do you trust Godwin again this year? Everybody that was following my live stream last year knows that Godwin was my most owned player on Underdog, and he was the he was the wide receiver 1 until he got hurt. So it was looking like a great steal. Do I trust Godwin again this year? I do. At value, I think he's a great play because, you look at Mike Evans and the efficiency already started to fall off for Mike Evans a little bit last year. People forget this because he started going off when Godwin was hurt. But when Godwin was on the field, he was by far and away more targeted than Mike Evans this season. This is very much because Mike Evans is getting older. Mike Evans is he's going to be 32 this season. If he's not already 32, I don't know. He's old as shit. Obviously, one of the best receivers of all time. But Father Time is undefeated. We know this. It's Godwin's season to break out. I wouldn't worry about the fact that they drafted Emeka Egbuka. I still think that Chris Godwin is going to average close to 10 targets a game. If anything, Emeka Egbuka will help make the offense more efficient. This is going to be a good offense, and I know that it sounds hypocritical saying that because I don't have Baker Mayfield in my top 12 quarterbacks. I still think the offense is going to be very good, and I still do trust Chris Godwin. Am I as high on him this year as I was last year? No, I'm not, but I think he's a tremendous value going where he's going in the draft. Gallon B, quarterback 3, Rattler. What do we Spencer Rattler. I hate Spencer Rattler. Dude sucks. What do we think about the Saints quarterback situation? Also, I'll probably join the Patreon league. You are very knowledgeable, and I've been trying to get some friends to watch. Hey, I appreciate that, Gallon. I really do appreciate it. I'm trying to blow this thing up as big as possible. I want as many people possible watching this as I can. It's not really my full-time career. I have another full-time job, but I like to get on here and stream as much as possible. It's fun. It's, income on the side and everything like that. So I do appreciate that. Yeah, but join the league, bro. We'd love to have you. It's going to be fun this year, and you can win $800 for first. It's only a 10-man league, so decent odds. I was so mad Godwin went last year. Right after Wright. Godwin and Rice were my two flexes. Oh, that's absolutely brutal. And that was another player I was pretty big on last year, like I am this year, in Rashee Rice. And it was looking like if you had that combo, bro, you were going to win your league. If Rashee Rice and Chris Godwin stayed healthy, you were going to win your league, bro. That's how good that combination was. But my gosh, they both got hurt, and they got hurt early in the season. So that probably tanked your team after that. That absolutely sucks. Kels 22 is Genty going to the moon. I don't know, man. I don't trust the offense. So, like, obviously in fantasy, we want to draft good players and good offenses, right? That's like the simple formula for success. Will he touch the ball 350 times? Very real possibility. So I think that from volume and talent alone, he's going to be a good fantasy running back, but he's also going in the middle of round one. He's creeping up draft boards a little bit too much for me. If you look at earlier in the offseason, he was going at the 1-2 turn. Then he started going like all the way at pick 7. Now that CMC's crawling up draft boards, it's kind of sent Genty down. But I don't know. Genty doesn't play in a good offense, so I'm just not 100% sure that I want to draft somebody in the first round that's playing in the Las Vegas Raiders system. So going to the moon, I don't know, man. I'm more like okay on Ashton Genty, whereas everybody else is super high on him. I want to be in a league. I want to be in a league with your channel. Yeah, man. Join the Patreon league. You see, I tried to post the link in the chat here, but yeah, like it was too big, so it wouldn't fit in the chat. But like, if you look at my channel, it literally says Patreon up top. All you got to do is click on the Patreon link, join the Patreon. And then once you get into Patreon, you have access to the Patreon league. It's going to fill up within the next 2 to 3 weeks because I'm live streaming pretty consistently and advertising it a lot. So definitely get in there. It's a $100 buy-in, $800 for first, $200 for second. So it's going to be a fun time. Decent odds, 10-man league. I St. Brown and Kamara and Joe Burrow. So you had St. Brown, Kamara. Oh man, that team was absolutely stacked, bro. So you might have been fine. St. Brown, Kamara, and Joe Burrow. Yeah, they all went off. Kamara tapered off a little bit towards the end of the season, but dude, I love DK in Pittsburgh because I think they're going to get Aaron Rodgers, right? I mean, like, I don't know what the holdup is. Aaron Rodgers likes to be dramatic, but Aaron Rodgers is probably going to go to Pittsburgh. I still think that Aaron Rodgers has plenty of arm talent. I think a lot of the reason that he was bad last year was because he was just in an absolutely terrible system. Now, is he the quarterback he used to be? Probably not. In fact, definitely not. If we had a prime Aaron Rodgers going to Pittsburgh, I would tell you to draft DK Metcalf in the first round. But even with DK Metcalf coming in and, being the wide receiver 1 in Pittsburgh, being in a new system, probably having Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback, I think he's a steal going where he's going in drafts. Obviously, he was never really living up to expectations in Seattle, but I think that a new system will be good for him. And if Aaron Rodgers is his quarterback, look out because he's going to explode. Puka was my rescue. Puka was absolutely awesome when he was on the field. Thoughts of Cup this year going so cheap. Okay, so everybody that watches my channel knows how big of a Cooper Kupp fan I am. I love Cooper Kupp. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL. I think he's incredibly fun to watch. Just kind of seems like one of the bros out there dominating, right? It's kind of fun to watch. But he's older now, right? He's in a system that's new. He's played his entire career on the Rams. Now he goes over to Seattle, playing with Sam Darnold, who was pretty good last year, but totally new system. He's probably aging out of the league, and he's really not the most explosive guy at this point in his career. And so unless they design a lot of the offense around him, which I'm not exactly sure they're going to do, I don't think that Cooper Kupp is really going to be that good of a value. In fact, I only own about 5 to 6% of him on Underdog. And if you do a lot of best ball drafts and a lot of best ball research, you'll know that 8% is pretty much the standard ownership of any player. And so I am below market on Cooper Kupp this year, to answer your question. So I don't hate him, but I'm a little bit below market on him in my Underdog drafts. Do I trust Achane this year? Yes, I do. I think Achane's going to absolutely blow up. I mean, I first of all think that the Dolphins offense is going to bounce back. I second of all know for a fact that he's going to be used as their main weapon. And this dude pretty much leads the league in yards per carry efficiency over the past 2 seasons. If you look at 2 seasons ago, he was the most efficient back of all time in the history of the NFL for one given season. This dude is a tremendously explosive running back with elite pass catching abilities. In fact, outside of Christian McCaffrey, he's probably the best receiving back in the league. So, yeah, I trust Devon Achane. I think he's going to go nuts. Kupp old, but maybe that last season to be relevant. I don't know, man. I honestly think that Kupp has seen his better days. I really like I said, I'm below market on Cooper Kupp. You think Josh Jacobs is a round 2 pick? I think it's around early. I absolutely think it's around early, J Money, my man. I think that Josh Jacobs is a lot better going in round 3 than round 2. Obviously, he's going to be a workhorse in what could be a very good offense, but you figured that like he's not going to carry the ball as much this coming season as he did last year. The touches have to go down a little bit if they're going to want to keep him healthy. And while the offense can be very good, they also have a lot of question marks. And we don't know that the touchdown upside is necessarily freakishly high. I think the touchdown upside is, top 12 or 13 in the league, but there's definitely running backs and better offenses that are going behind him that I would rather take. Is Davante Adams a buy with Stafford? Yeah, Kels. I think we were actually talking about Davante Adams earlier. We were talking about Davante Adams versus Mike Evans, and Jay Money was saying that, he would rather take Davante Adams over Mike Evans. I absolutely 100% agreed with him. Do I have a Patreon link posted? I'm going to join. So if you go to, so I tried to post it here in the chat, Gallon, but it was slightly too big. The link was too big. So if you go to the top of my page on my channel, you'll literally just see a link there that says Patreon. Just click Patreon and it'll take you right to it. But let me try real quick to get it this way. I don't know that that's I don't think that's gonna work. I don't know. Yeah, just go to the top of my page. You'll see Patreon right there. Just click Patreon and you'll go right to it. Yeah, it'll be good to have you in the league, man. We're trying to fill this thing up pretty much as soon as possible. So, and another thing is, if I fill up the first Patreon league like right away, I might consider starting a second one, but it's a lot managing a league and managing a channel at the same time. So, like, I think the odds of me starting a second Patreon league are slim, but they are there. It's something I might be curious in, but if you want to for sure get in the league with us, go ahead and join this one. This is going to be the one that I focus most of my attention on. If I start a second one, I might not even pay that much attention to it, to be honest with you. Yeah, guys, ask away through fantasy football questions. We're talking about quarterback rankings today, but I'm down to talk about like pretty much anything. And Gallon, let me know if you find that link. If not, we'll figure something out. So I'll make sure you find it. Appreciate you guys coming in. Thanks for joining my PM stream. I'm going to keep this going for a little bit. Ask away with fantasy football questions. It doesn't have to be about quarterbacks. It can be about literally like anything. So anything fantasy football question-wise that you have, or if you just want to give me your opinion on something about fantasy football, or tell me I'm an idiot and tell me that my takes are bad, you can do that too. Totally don't mind. Will Justin Fields go out this year? Yeah, Kels, I have Justin Fields inside my top 12, so I do think that Justin Fields is going to have a good season. We saw how good he was with DJ Moore as wide receiver 1. You got to figure, obviously, he's in a completely different system, but we know how well Justin Fields functions with an elite wide receiver 1, and Garrett Wilson is better than DJ Moore, in my humble opinion. So I think Justin Fields is going to go off. We know the rushing upside is, tops in the league, right up there with the best of the best. Jerry Jeudy to the moon. My gosh, yes, Jerry Jeudy to the moon. In fact, everybody knows who my most drafted player on Underdog was last year. It was Chris Godwin. Well, I'm pretty sure, not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that Jerry Jeudy will end up being my most drafted player on Underdog this year. Because if you look at the prospect, obviously this dude was projected at one point to go ahead of CeeDee Lamb in the NFL draft. Let's not forget how much promise this dude had coming into the league. He's probably the best route runner in the NFL. You look at him, he had 1,200 plus receiving yards last year with a fluctuating quarterback situation. This year, we don't know who the quarterback is for the Browns, but we do know this. Joe Flacco will air the ball out if he's the starter. Joe Flacco will absolutely air the ball out. The dude is an absolute gunslinger. Look what he did for Amari Cooper in the Browns offense late in the season in 2023 when he came in for Amari Cooper. Jerry Jeudy's going to absolutely explode, and I think he has the upside to be a top 8 overall wide receiver. I don't care how bad the offense is. This dude is going to be peppered with 10 targets a game. He's going to have multiple games of over 100 receiving yards, probably 7 or 8 of them. I'm not kidding. This dude is going to be hyper-targeted. He's super talented. He's a great route runner. And despite being in what's projected to be a low-scoring offense, he's just going to dominate the entire air yard share for the team. Yes, Jerry Jeudy to the moon. But right now, he's not currently my most owned player. My most owned player right now on Underdog is Javonte Williams. And that's because, well, the Cowboys bolstered the offensive line, and they're projected to be one of the highest scoring offenses in the NFL. And if Javonte Williams gets to head this backfield without too much interference from Jaden Blue, yeah. Yeah, okay. But, like, who cares about Cedric Tillman, right? I mean, like, Cedric Tillman is not going to eat – bro, okay, like, could Cedric Tillman ball out? Yes. But, like, I really don't see him – do you really see him eating into Jerry Jeudy's overall target share very much? I mean, I really don't see him eating into Jerry Jeudy's target share at all. I mean, Jerry Jeudy's still probably going to get 9 targets a game, right? I really don't see Cedric Tillman providing that much interference for Jerry Jeudy. Bro, if I saw Javonte Williams shit the bed for 3 years for him to go off and down. But you got to understand that, like, they never really cut Javonte loose after he came back from his injury. Like, he was dominating pre-knee injury. No way Jerry is going to get 10 plus a game anyways. Well, I was thinking about 9. Yes, Kels, I know you told me about Nico. Nico's freaking awesome, man. Like, I was saying last year, and me and Kels talked about this all the time. I was actually telling people, God, this was such a bad take looking back. You know, obviously, Tank Dell got hurt. Who knows what would have happened later in the season. But I was telling people to basically, well, fade Nico Collins and draft Tank Dell because Tank Dell has the same amount of upside. That's literally what I was saying. It turned out to be a really bad take. Nico Collins is absolutely awesome. He's a clear-cut wide receiver, one of the offense, and I didn't think that he was going to get the target share that he was going to get with Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell in the offense, but Nico Collins absolutely just tore it up. And I have him as an outside candidate to be the wide receiver 1 this year. The dude's freaking awesome. I've joined a Patreon league, and I make my friend tomorrow if there's still a spot. Yeah, there'll still be a spot tomorrow. Like I said, I expect it to fill somewhere between 2 and 3 weeks from now. Thank you, Gallon. I appreciate you joining the league, and it is good to have you, man. We're going to have some fun this season. Dominating pre-knee injury is a stretch, but I can see the vision. I mean, dude, late in the season, I don't remember what year was that Javonte Williams came in. He got the head roll in the Broncos offense. I think it was all the way back in like 2021, and he was tearing it up there towards the end of the season. Now, has he ever been a dominant running back from a yards per carry efficiency standpoint? No. You know, he's never averaged more than 5 yards a carry in a season. So he's never really dominated from a yards per carry efficiency standpoint. But, like, the point I'm making is look at, like, the washed up version of Ezekiel Elliott was putting up fantasy points in the Dallas offense just because of the opportunity you get playing in that offense. If you're getting rushing opportunities within the 5-yard line, you're going to fall into the end zone a certain amount of times. Javonte Williams should be used a decent amount on the goal line. And just from touchdowns alone, he could provide a pretty decent fantasy season. I told you, man. Guess who's next up? J-Mo will ball out, and Jaden Higgins is a beast. Well, at this point, if I don't listen to you, Kels22, I'm going to obviously look like a fool. So, yeah. You think really? You think Jaden Blue's going to take the job? It's possible. Hit the likes, fellas. Appreciate that. Vino Sino in the house. Good to see you, man. You think Isaiah Pacheco will have a bounce back year? We were actually talking about Pacheco earlier, bro. I think he's going to have a massive bounce back year. I mean, the entire Chiefs offense is being slept on this year because they were playing ball control all of last season. But look for them to bounce back massively. And Isaiah Pacheco is one of the bigger steals in the draft at the running back position. The only reason his usage went down last year is because he was clearly still not 100% when he came back. That's why they signed Kareem Hunt. That's exactly why Kareem Hunt got the majority of the usage later in the season, because Pacheco wasn't playing at 100%. His yards per carry efficiency went from like 4.7 yards a carry in the season pre-injury to like 3.4 yards per carry. Over a yard per carry efficiency down when he came back. He clearly wasn't 100%. He's had an entire offseason to heal. He's going to be in one of the biggest bounce back offenses, if not the biggest bounce back offense in the entire NFL. His value is tremendous. But Stephon Diggs, worth it, wide receiver 5. Depends what format. I think, Gallon, that Stephon Diggs is worth it because, like where's the target share going to go in this offense, right? I mean, really, who are they going to throw the ball to, right? Like, they've got to target Stephon Diggs like crazy. I believe he's going to be 31 this year. Probably still has one really good season left in him. And like, he's going to come out and get consistent target share. And that's what we want, right? So, as your wide receiver 5, yeah, I mean, how many other players in Stephon Diggs' range have the same kind of upside as Stephon Diggs? Really nobody, right? Like, if you're going from a floor perspective, there might be some better options. But from a ceiling perspective, if you look at Stephon Diggs, the range that he's going in, there's really not a lot of people who have a higher ceilings. Motherfuckers, you think, whoa, Garf, you think that James Polk is a threat to Stephon Diggs' target share? You really, bro, no, he's not a threat to Stephon Diggs' target share. Answering all and any fantasy football questions about any position. I don't like T. Higgins where he gets drafted. He has his best season last year. He's ended up. Well, I'll tell you why T. Higgins is going so high. I mean, obviously, if you made the final round of a best ball tournament on Underdog last year, I was in one final round. Unfortunately, I wish I would have been in more, but I was in one final round. And what we all figured out is that T. Higgins won people a ton of money in best ball last year because he exploded in week 17. And typically players that explode in week 17 get overdrafted the next season. But if you look at T. Higgins, he's never had a season of over 1,100 receiving yards. He's never had a season of over 1,100 receiving yards. So, if you look at it, is it really worth it to take T. Higgins in the second round? I don't think so, right? Ja'Marr Chase is obviously going to dominate the target share in this offense. Obviously, he's going to dominate the production in this offense. And while T. Higgins gives you a tremendously high weekly ceiling, T. Higgins, while he has a tremendously high weekly ceiling, is not worth the second round pick. Maybe Kyren Williams, if he caught only 30% of his touchdowns. T. Higgins, just James Polk. Man, you really like James Polk, bro. T. Higgins is a glorified wide receiver 2 going in round 2. That's crazy. Also, sorry, my name is pronounced Galen. It's Irish. Oh, okay. So I was calling you Galen. My bad, Galen. Sorry. Yeah. I wish I would have known that, but I'll call you Galen from now on. This guy's name is Galen. I see T. Higgins being taken over A.J. Brown. Yeah, that's absolute madness. T. Higgins being taken over A.J. Brown is madness. A.J. Brown is one of the best, most efficient wide receivers in the NFL. In fact, if you look at statistics like yards after the catch, best ball points over expected, this dude creates more fantasy points on his own than like almost any wide receiver in the NFL. He had a little bit of a down season last year because Saquon had so much volume. His targets dropped down to about 7.5 a game, where he was at about 9.5, 10 targets a game the previous season where he dominated. But look for that target share to go up. It's A.J. Brown. I don't see how there's any way that he doesn't have a massive bounce back season. I mean, I don't think that Saquon's going to touch the ball as much this year if they want to keep him healthy. So the target share is inherently going to have to go back up for A.J. Brown. Come on, Garth, man. There's no reason to troll people like that. It's not necessary. I absolutely, yeah. Are you in on Dak this year? I am big time in on Dak. In fact, I have Dak 7th overall in my quarterback rankings. So if you look at Dak Prescott, obviously he was the quarterback 3 in fantasy 2 seasons ago. This dude is an absolute monster. So, now we add George Pickens to the offense, right? What was your team name last year? Garth, are you talking about my best ball team name? I was in the final round of the Puppy But Superflex, and my team name is Crushing Fantasy Football on Underdog. So if you wanted to go somehow look that up, I was in the final round of the Puppy But Superflex, and my team absolutely shit the bed in the final round. Would I take Tyreek over AJ? No, I'm not taking Tyreek over AJ Brown. And everybody knows that I'm big on a Tyreek Hill bounce back season. I'm bigger on Tyreek Hill than almost any other fantasy football content creator, but I'm not taking him over AJ Brown. There's no way in hell. T. Higgins is Josh Gordon if Josh Gordon got way too That's funny. Self-fulfilling prophecy team name. I rode Jerry Jeudy to the finals, no lie. Yeah, Jerry Jeudy had a late season explosion. Yeah, Vino Sino is already in the Patreon league as well. Galen just joined. So we've got 5 people in the Patreon league now. So it's going to fill up pretty quickly. If you guys want to join, just go to my page, go to the very top of my list, click on Patreon, join the Patreon, and get in on the league. You're also going to get what I have now, my rankings. I have my top 64 rankings out for the season. Yeah, so you're going to get that and what started on my draft guide. My draft guide is still very primitive. It's not even remotely finished yet, but you'll see what I have so far in my draft guide, and you'll get my top 64 rankings, and you'll get a chance to win $800 in the Patreon league. Dak is so volatile. Made myself promise never again. Always goes 0. Yeah, Dak is fire if held. I agree, Galen. I mean, like, the dude was quarterback 3 just 2 seasons ago. It's like people are forgetting about him just because he got hurt. That's literally the only reason why people are down on Dak Prescott is because of recency bias. The most recent thing they saw was he wasn't having the best season before he went down. But what a lot of people forget is that Dak started the 2023 season slow. CeeDee Lamb started the 2023 season slow. Dak ended up being the quarterback 3. CeeDee Lamb ended up being the quarterback 1. So, it's a long season. Dak got hurt very early in the year. And now we add George Pickens to the freaking offense. We add, we have a little bit better of a backfield. At least we bolster the offensive line. Dak's going to explode. I took A-Chain and profited $35 in my league. Well, hey, $35, my man, is more than some people made in fantasy last year. Because some people lose money playing fantasy football. I've had years where I've lost money playing fantasy football, although as I've gotten better at it throughout the years, I've been a lot more consistent as far as profiting on a season-to-season basis. I remember he gets points on this year, but he's on a big bang or bust team. I beat Chris in the finals every year. Real shit. Their line keeps getting worse every year in injuries. Cowboys. Yeah, well, I don't know, man. Yeah, the Cowboys offensive line, just looking 3 or 4 seasons ago, I mean, there was really nowhere to go but down. I mean, is Davante Adams officially for suckers? I don't think so, bro. I think Davante Adams is going to have a massive season. He's a prominent red zone target in what's going to be a hyper-concentrated offense towards their wide receivers, and he's going to be in an offense that provides tons of touchdown scoring opportunities, could come out and get 8 or 9 targets a game, maybe 10 certain weeks, maybe 11 certain weeks. Let's talk Pittsburgh backfield, specifically Gainwell. Man, Pittsburgh backfield. So obviously they bolstered the backfield in the draft. I still kind of like Jaylen Warren. I think he's an explosive, multi-dimensional player. But is Caleb Johnson going to eat into his opportunity share? Absolutely. Davante Adams is officially for suckers. I think Davante Adams is going to go absolutely nuts this year. I mean, what argument do you have against Davante Adams other than the fact that he's old? If you wanted to tell me, hey, Father Time's undefeated, this dude's going to fall off a cliff because he's so old, but look at the offensive situation that he's in. I mean, look about how this offense hyper-targeted Cooper Kupp, how this offense hyper-targeted Puka Nacua. They're going to do the same thing with Davante Adams. This is a pass-concentrated offense. Even Kyren Williams, as much work as he gets, is not the main focus of this offense. It's the wide receivers. And Puka Nacua and Davante Adams are going to be peppered with targets. I don't see how Davante Adams won't go off. I don't see any version of Davante Adams not dominating. 3rd in nation all-purpose yards freshman year. The Sean McVay offense don't sleep. Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, this is going to be an offense that scores a lot of points. They're going to play at a fast pace. They're going to target their best players. That's what they do. And I think the addition of Terrence Ferguson is going to be good. That's a pass-catching tight end that could be very good in the NFL. So don't sleep on him helping the overall efficiency of the offense be better. Share thoughts. Oh, share targets with Puka. Yeah, he's going to share targets with Puka, but so what? Like, a good NFL offense can support 2 wide receivers. Like, I think people get too scared of wide receivers that are number 2 wide receivers in their offense. I mean, like, a wide receiver can still go off as a wide receiver 2 in an offense, and Davante Adams is going to dominate the red zone target share. So I don't see anything to be scared of. I really don't see any flags. Any red flags with Davante Adams. 0, except for his age. The only argument that I would accept is he's too old. Other than that, there's no red flags with Davante Adams. The dude should absolutely go off. Adams has one more good season left. Yeah, I think he does too. I really do. I think he's going to ball out this season and then due to age probably, might fall off a cliff after that. Puka will be hurt too. And that's the other thing is when you're talking about Puka Nacua, this is one of the most hardcore wide receivers in the league as far as how he plays. The dude just plays so incredibly hard that he always hurts himself. So what happens if Puka Nacua goes down, right? Devontae Adams is going to come out and get 13 targets a game. Maybe, I mean, dude, we've seen it. Like when Cooper Kupp was out, Puka Nacua was a sure thing to get 12 targets a game. Right? In the years where Cooper Kupp won the Triple Crown, the dude was getting 12 targets a game. This offense is going to hyper target their wide receivers. This will be CMC's last solid fantasy year. Yeah, I mean, he's only 28 years old, but like if you look at Christian McCaffrey, he's the most used up running back in the entire NFL, right? We're going to see him fall off a cliff sharply at some point. I don't think it's going to be this season. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt at age 28, especially considering the fact that he's like the highest ceiling fantasy running back of all time. I mean, the dude had a season where he scored 29 fantasy points per game. This dude is an absolute fantasy monster, given his inherent upside and ceiling and the offense that he plays in. And just, yeah, I can't fade CMC. I'm going to be drafting him in a decent amount of my drafts. You were just dogging T. Higgins, though. Well, I know, but every situation is different. Every situation is, a different case. T. Higgins cannot be compared to Devontae Adams. They're not even in the same universe of talent. Devontae Adams is a better receiver than T. Higgins could ever be in his life. Galen B., what is the opinion on Jalen Coker? I think Jalen Coker is one of the biggest bums in the draft. I think he's one of the absolute – I don't think that Jalen Coker should be getting drafted. I mean, if you look at how crowded that wide receiver room is. Yeah. No, I'm not going to be taking any shares of Jalen Coker. In fact, I've done 124 underdog drafts now, and I think that I took 2 shares of Jalen Coker, and they were both when I accidentally timed out on Jalen Coker. Because I've been doing 20-second drafts, and every once in a while I'll time out. I think I've timed out on him twice, but I've never picked Jalen Coker on purpose. Why, Galen? Are you a Jalen Coker fan or something? Sorry to burst your bubble if you are. I don't see him doing anything this year. Thoughts on Deebo? I'm emotionally attached. He's won me leagues. But Deebo Samuel, to me, is one of the most mysterious players in all of fantasy football. He's one of the best yard after catch wide receivers in the game, obviously, and he's going to a very explosive offense. But if you look at him last year, he looked absolutely terrible. I mean, they stopped targeting him. They stopped using him in that gadget role as much. The dude just didn't appear to have nearly the same upside. So, gosh, man, I don't know. You look at the yards after the catch ability and the offense that he plays in, and you think this dude's just going to absolutely explode, but he looked awful last year. So to me, Deebo is one of the most polarizing players in all of fantasy because I really don't know what to make of him. I will say this. I'm under market on Deebo Samuel. I'm below 8% in my underdog drafts on Deebo Samuel. So, all right, Galen, you are not a Jalen Coker fan. That's good because, he's not going to do anything this year. Yeah, under market, meaning so the typical market share of a player on underdog fantasy is 8%. So if you own an average amount of players if you own an average amount of a certain player through a lot of your drafts, the average is 8%. I own less than 8%. Chris Templeton, you're 6'5". That's pretty tall, bro. You don't need 11 when you got me out there, boy. Would have gone pro if my coach didn't hate me. I can't tell if y'all actually know each other or not. I don't know. Yeah, guys, ask me fantasy football questions about any position. It doesn't have to be about quarterbacks. So I like that we actually got off and started talking about some other positions. What about CJ Stroud? I have a share in him, and he was very disappointing last season. I think that CJ Stroud can bounce back. I mean, last season ended up being all about Joe Mixon. Tank Dell got hurt. I like the addition of Christian Kirk to the offense. I think this is going to help things. I think that Christian Kirk, while not the best NFL wide receiver, is at least going to help take some attention off Nico Collins. And you got to keep in mind that CJ Stroud did poorly because, Nico missed a certain stretch of games. Tank Dell got hurt, right? It just wasn't the same offense as far as their wide receivers being on the field as it was in previous seasons. And the way they used Stephon Diggs was so weird. They wouldn't air him out the ball enough. So I don't know. Their offense was just a complete mess last year from a passing perspective. I absolutely think that CJ Stroud could bounce back and have a decent third season. I know him from he sabotaged my law career. Garf. Give me a sleeper tight end. Terrence Ferguson. Terrence freaking Ferguson. Everybody knows I love the Rams offense this year. I love Matthew Stafford. Give me Terrence Ferguson. I don't really consider Evan Ingram a sleeper, Chris. I mean, to me, Evan Ingram is somebody that a lot of people see coming. So I wouldn't really consider him a sleeper tight end. My ultimate sleeper tight end is Terrence Ferguson. He's going for free. Like if you have a 16-round draft, you can get Terrence Ferguson in the last round. And I think it's really good to take a late round flyer on him. Tight end position is cooked. You laugh, but he actually did. I might ride waivers for tight end. Yeah, and tight end is don't get me wrong. Having a good tight end can make a big difference in fantasy because most people's tight ends do nothing. But if you look at all four positions, it is the least important of them all. So if you wanted to focus on the main three positions and then get tight ends off the waiver wire, that's fine. And tight end is also one of the most unpredictable positions from a season to season standpoint. It always seems like it's going to be predictable because you're like, okay, so-and-so is the tight end one. Tight end one's going to get a certain allotted amount of targets, but then it just doesn't happen that way. Some other tight end comes out of nowhere. It happens all the time at that position. So riding the waivers really isn't a bad idea. Thoughts? Njoku thoughts since we are on tight end. I like David Njoku. I mean, the dude has the talent profile, right? 6'4", runs well, I don't want to say he runs good route. He's an okay route runner, but he is physically dominant. A certain amount of targets are going to have to go to the tight ends. The only problem with David Njoku is the touchdown upside. Njoku is cancer, Kyle Pitts. I wouldn't compare David Njoku's career to Kyle Pitts' career so far. Kyle Pitts has been a significantly more of a bust than David Njoku. David Njoku's provided a good weekly ceiling and decent fantasy production. Now, if Kyle Pitts were to get traded, go into a different system, sure, maybe he would be awesome. The dude has the talent profile. He's kind of Darren Waller-esque, but I can't compare David Njoku to Kyle Pitts whatsoever. I like David Njoku way more than Kyle Pitts. And to answer your question, Galen, I'm okay on David Njoku this year. I wouldn't say that I'm excited about him, but he's okay at cost. Pitts in terms of production versus expectations. Obviously his production versus expectations has been absolutely terrible. But he needs to go to a good system. It's not really fair. I mean, Njoku also played through second degree. Yeah. Njoku's had so many fluctuating quarterback situations. I mean, not that Kyle Pitts hasn't, but man. Tight ends, man. They can definitely help you when they pop, but I don't know, man. Would have been third degree if he read his DMs from me. Garf, your character, bro. I like it. I like the energy. Ask away about any position, guys. Doesn't have to be about quarterbacks. I know that's the topic of the video, but do I trust RJ Harvey in a Peyton offense with a 6th-round pick? He has had a bad track record for running backs in Denver. Appreciate you, Garf. Welcome to the channel, and it is good to have you, my man. RJ Harvey. Well, you do know that J.K. Dobbins has been meeting with the Denver Broncos, right? I believe he was there yesterday and today, maybe tomorrow. So if J.K. Dobbins gets added to this backfield, while everybody thinks, okay, J.K. Dobbins is, he's not going to stay healthy and on the field, right? Injuries are still very hard to predict, even though he's been pretty much one of the most injury-prone players in the entire NFL. It happens all the time where injury-prone players come out and actually play and are productive for a majority of the season. And here's the thing about J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins has elite running back talent. He really does. RJ Harvey, really good as well. Obviously, I think that if J.K. Dobbins doesn't join this offense, he's going to be very good. But in my personal opinion, RJ Harvey is starting to creep up draft boards a little bit too high. I like taking him earlier in the offseason before he got drafted and getting him as a steal. Obviously, that's before we knew he went to Denver and was probably going to be the lead back. But I don't know, man. He's starting to creep up draft boards a little bit too much for my liking. And now they are meeting with J.K. Dobbins. I'm starting to kind of get a little bit weary, a little bit unsure of the value for RJ Harvey. RJ Harvey is a dog. From a talent perspective, he certainly is. I mean, he led the Big 12 in rushing efficiency. The dude is a dog. There's no doubt about that. But J.K. Dobbins is a dog as well. If J.K. Dobbins comes to Denver, it's a split backfield. It's a split backfield. Like, there's no way that RJ Harvey is going to get a significantly more of a snap share than J.K. Dobbins. It's going to be a split backfield. Yeah, well, that's a very good point, actually. That's something I actually should have touched on because J.K. Dobbins is not a pass-catching back whatsoever. He's a pure rusher, always has been. So, yeah, and RJ Harvey showed prominence in the passing game, and he's actually a back that can dominate, yes, from a PPR's perspective. So I actually should have touched on that when speaking of the Denver backfield. Even if J.K. Dobbins does land on the team, even if J.K. Dobbins somehow stays healthy and plays a full season, which we know is a big if, RJ Harvey should still be a good PPR back for you because he's going to be catching all the passes out of the backfield. Very good point, Chris. All right, guys, ask away with your fantasy football questions. Let's blow up this chat and ask as many questions as you possibly have regarding fantasy football. Whew, I'm getting thirsty. Yeah. Remains to be seen. All I know is I got a lot of RJ Harvey and pre-draft best ball, and I got him in like the second to last, third to last round, and a lot of the pre-draft best ball drafts. So if J.K. Dobbins doesn't go there, I'm in the driver's seat in a few of those. What state am I out of? I am in Texas, my man. What about you? That's the best way to win a fantasy league. Get the elite running backs off the waiver wire. Colorado. Yeah, Galen, I visited Colorado last year, not for the first time. I've been out there many times in my life, but I hadn't been out there in like probably a decade. And man, I forgot how freaking beautiful that state is. I was in Ouray for a while, sitting in the hot springs. I was with my family. It was a fun trip. I love Colorado. Be honesty. Be honesty. I don't know what that means. Memphis, Tennessee, baby. I do a lot of work in Texas, Dripping Springs. I think it was root beer. Yeah, absolutely. That was root beer. Yeah, man. I'm running low on it though. I'm gonna have to get a Gatorade, man. I'm getting thirsty. All right, y'all. Good to have you on the stream. I'm probably going to dip out of here. I'm going to get a little late night snack, get something to drink, rehydrate, and I will be back on the stream very soon. If you're new to the channel, I appreciate you coming in, and it's good to see everyone who's been here before, who's a repeat. It's good to see all you guys. Those of you who joined the Patreon League, I appreciate you. We're going to have some fun this season, and I'll catch you guys later.